So from cybersecurity and protecting against Russian hackers to talking about the really a lot of the systems that we saw at Vive and HIMSS around the patient journey and patient centricity. And we've really lucked out here. We have two leaders in the area in this topic and on this area, Dr. Roxie Mooney and certainly Nathan Sundheimer from Plug and Play. Welcome both and appreciate you joining. Thank you for joining us today.
Hey Stan, thanks for having us.
Super.
Good to be here.
It's great to see you guys. And just to open up, why don't you do a quick 1-minute background on your name, title, organization, and a little bit about what you do, maybe 30 seconds, and where in the world are you? And Roxie, why don't you start?
Sure, I'll start. So I am the healthcare commercialization strategist for Legacy DNA. Legacy DNA is a strategy company for health innovators, early stage companies, mid-market companies, as well as some more of those legacy companies. And I like to say that we help kill bad ideas and we help companies increase the likelihood success of those good ones. And I'm the lead strategist there. And most of the methodologies and models that we use are built on my personal research that I've done, as well as my doctorate work.
Super. And Nathan, give us a little bit of background on yourself and where you are, which part of the world you're in, and tell people, in case they don't know, what Plug and Play does.
Sure, absolutely. So hi everyone, my name is Nathan Sundheimer and I head US healthcare partnerships for the healthcare division at Plug and Play. Just as a quick background, Plug and Play is a global innovation platform where we primarily do 3 things. We connect the best startups with our national and global corporate partners. We run accelerator programs. And lastly, we invest in early stage technologies. But typically, I'm normally based out of Cleveland, but I am in San Francisco this week. And also, for those that don't know in the audience, Roxie also is the executive host and producer of the Healthcare Innovators podcast, which is fantastic. And you all should give it a listen and a follow.
All right, outstanding. And so let's talk a little bit about Vive and HIMSS and patient centricity. What did you guys see this time around that was different than what you've seen in past years? Obviously, it's been a couple of years, and obviously Vive, this is the first year. So tell us a little bit about what you saw in terms of physician consumer collaboration platforms. And again, Roxie, if you can lead on this one, that'd be great.
Sure. I think that there's more focus than ever before. So I think for years, we've had a lot of conversations around patient centricity and involving patients and making them the focus of the work that we do. But I'm seeing a lot more action, a lot more of those innovations that are being brought to market by solution providers with more of that emphasis and more of that focus and lots of energy and lots of enthusiasm just to be back at Vive. It was the first time that I had been at a face-to-face conference since before COVID. And so I think most of us were experiencing that. So we were just all really glad to be in crowds again.
That is fantastic. Yeah, I totally agree on that one for sure. And Nathan, again, same kind of question to you in terms of what you saw at Vive and HIMSS.
Sure. So unfortunately, I wasn't able to go to HIMSS, but I was at Vive. And I think Roxie hit the nail on the head around patient centricity. It was so fun to see so many different thought leaders talk about this specific topic. I think the biggest takeaway for me was really around just stakeholder engagement around patient centricity. And so there was one presentation that I saw from a group called Carbon, and they were doing a presentation with Geisinger as well as Ascension. And there was one other individual, I think it was Carter Dredge from SSM. And what they were talking about was creating a sort of a viability landscape or a viability process where there are so many unique technologies out there in the world, but oftentimes when we're working or trying to build these technologies, we're doing it in a siloed or semi-siloed fashion. And even though that we're thinking that we're engaging everyone that we need to engage, that's not necessarily the case. And so really when you're creating these solutions and you're creating these patient-centric models, the more individuals that you can involve from the provider side, from the patient side, the more individuals that you can bring to the table, the better. I thought that was extremely profound, and I thought that it really capped a lot of the thoughts and opinions that had happened over those few days in Miami.
Super. And I'm going to hand the podium over to you, Nathan, to finish off the interview with Roxie as well.
Oh, sounds great. Sounds great. Well, thanks, Dan. So Roxie, just kind of building off from Vive and from these conferences, what was your general experience between the two? Which one was more impactful? And what were some different takeaways that maybe you saw at HIMSS that you didn't see at Vive and vice versa?
Yeah, sure. So I would say that, I think probably just because Vive was the first year of the conference, right? It's an inaugural show. There was so much more enthusiasm and excitement. And I think also, again, just the return of this face-to-face experience. But I really felt like an innovation community. The energy and the excitement and enthusiasm that you would expect around innovation is kind of what I embodied at the Vive conference. Whereas at HIMSS, it was, still a really big conference. I think there was maybe about 25,000 that were an attendee, and it was in Orlando, which is where I'm located. So that was super convenient. But there was a lot and lots of what we would normally expect from HIMSS, a lot of the big vendors, a lot of the same topics that we've been talking about for a while now. So I'm anxious to see HIMSS evolve a little bit and us to start to see some of the execution and implementation of those ideas, and for us to be able to, start talking about and leading on more of what's on the forefront of what we can all look forward to.
That's awesome. That's awesome. Yeah, unfortunately I wasn't able to attend this year, but I really hope to attend the next one that occurs. But unfortunately, so being at HIMSS or not being at HIMSS, I know that you had the opportunity to present, but would you be able to tell us a little bit more about your presentation and your discussion around co-creating value with consumers?
Sure.
I was
Yeah.
able to. Yeah, go ahead. Sorry.
Well, it ties to everything that we're talking about, right? With patient centricity, it's, really mind boggling when you think about it, us talking about this term or value-based care, and just the challenges that we have with adoption. And yet you have, thousands of companies that are building patient-centric models and patient-centric solutions without ever involving the patient in the process. We are building tools for them. So my presentation, and a lot of the work that I do is around encouraging founders and leaders to build solutions with patients instead of for them, make them part of the process. We're pouring trillions of dollars into healthcare innovation, and so many of those end up in what I call the zombie graveyard, that there's no need for those solutions that we're building. And it's really unfortunate. And so I feel really strongly that co-creation is the best strategy for us to be able to involve patients and consumers and providers into the product development process and create cultures of innovation, for continuous innovation within our businesses, and make sure that we're building solutions that really solve problems. I like to say that if a group of people have a problem, but they really aren't willing to pay to solve it, it's really more of an inconvenience. And we don't want to build businesses that are just addressing inconveniences. That's not going to be very successful. We want to build businesses and build solutions that are really going to be solving problems that people are worth spending money for. And I strongly believe that co-creation is the path to be able to do that. And, unfortunately, I had the last slot on the last day. So I thought I was going to be giving a presentation to about 2 people that were my team members. And I was really, really pleasantly surprised that there were about 60 or 70 people that actually attended. So it was very, very encouraging to see so many people interested in this topic, interested in not just talking about patient centricity, but actually involving patients in this co-creation process.
Awesome. Yeah, next time that you give that presentation, you'll have one more in the crowd, and that'll be
Good.
myself. I know we have about a minute left, but I also wanted to ask, so what are some of the big next steps or some of the next big projects that you and Legacy DNA are looking to tackle in the near future?
It's really, really all around this idea of moving the needle, kind of just going back to a couple of things that I said before of, we're really pouring trillions of dollars into transforming healthcare. I'm preaching to the choir here. We're all familiar with the money that's being poured in and the real problems that we're trying to solve. My objective and mission really is to move the needle, help people be part of that 5% that succeeds, or start to really diminish significantly this failure rate that we have, so we can get in these innovations that so many brilliant founders and innovators are bringing to market, get them into the hands of the people that need them. What really keeps me up at night is this idea that our family, our friends, or even ourselves are going to need access to these innovations, but we won't have them, not because they didn't have great solutions or great technology, but they didn't know how to successfully commercialize it. And I want to be able to change that.
Awesome. Awesome. Well, thank you. And it was great to be able to have a conversation with you today. And just as a parting sentiment for any startup that's in the audience and they're trying to figure out this co-creation process, or they're trying to really develop their solutions and their technologies and their traction, I cannot recommend highly enough to reach out to Roxie and her team. They're absolutely fantastic. But with that, thanks, Roxie. And Stan, I know you're back, and I'll hand it off to you.
Thank you, Nathan, for a great interview. And thank you again, Roxie, for that as well.
Thank you both. Thank you.